In this video, we're going to be doing everything involved in getting this house ready for plaster. I've got so many little jobs that I have to get done before we do the plaster. I'm going to be putting in a cavity side and pocket. We're going to be building a bulkhead over some cabinetry, and we're going to be doing one of the most important things in a home renovation, and that is to go through and get these walls straight and ready for plaster. So that means two things. Firstly, I need to go through and take off all this old plaster glue, which is on every single stud, and then also go through and take off these nails. And then once I've gone through and cleared off every single stud, we're going to get the straight edge and leveled out and go through and start straightening every single wall. And since I am working on such an old house, the odds are that a lot of these walls are going to be pretty bad and they're going to need a fair bit of work done to them. Now there's actually a couple ways that I can go through and get rid of this plaster glue. Obviously one way is to do what I'm doing now with a chisel. It's going to be a bit more labour intensive, take a little bit longer than going through with a planer and just planing it off. Obviously though, if I went through with a planer, it's going to kill my planer blades. So I'm just going to go through with my chisel and get all of this glue off, and then my planer blades will be in good nick to actually start straightening the walls. Alright, so that's the first wall all cleared from glue and nails. That one's ready to straighten. Before I do that though, I just want to keep making my way around and getting every single wall ready to go. That brings us to this wall though, and this is a wall that had the door jamb that has been completely eaten away by termites. So obviously we have to get rid of this door jamb and that door, but instead of buying a new one to fill that space, I'm actually going to be opening up this wall and having this as a big open walkway through to the dining room. So whilst I'm working here, we may as well get rid of this door jamb and open up the wall. The only concern I have though is that it is our temp kitchen on the other side. So whatever I do here, I need to do it in a way to minimize the dust and the mess in that side of the house. And I've also got to figure out a way to block off this walkway when I'm done. Right, so I might actually just leave it how it is right now. We can see there's a lot of termite damage in the far side architrave as well. We can also see that this stud here is completely eaten up by termites, so I'm going to have to replace that. I can't do that yet though. I do need my spiky mate to come past, disconnect all of these cables here so that I can replace the stud, and then you'll have to come back and rerun everything after that. This will be the size of the opening though. We're going to go from this existing stud through to this stud here. And I'm going to leave these droppers up there as well so we can put a sill plate on the top, and this is going to be a big open walkway. So I'm just going to leave this here for now, and I'm just going to keep making my way around cleaning up the rest of these walls. So I'm ready to go through and start straightening these walls now. And upon first look, I think we're going to be doing a lot of work to get these walls right. The way that I'm going to straighten this wall is going to be a bit different to how I usually do it. Normally on a brand new job, I just go through, check every single stud for straight, get those all good, and when they're good, then I'll check the wall sideways. When I'm going through and checking all the studs are straight, what we're really doing is going from bottom plate to top plate and checking that it's straight in between there. When we're building a new house, we know that our bottom plate has been shot on completely straight. We know we've plumbed our top plate up to be straight as well, so we know that they're two good points we can go off. When I'm renovating a house like this, we are not trusting that this bottom plate is straight. So the first thing we're going to be doing is actually going through and checking that. And I can already see in this wall, we do have a massive rock in that plate. If I didn't check this bottom plate and I just presumed that our wall plates were straight, I would have gone through, straightened every single stud, and then once I straightened them, then I would have noticed this huge rock in the wall and I would have had to redo everything. So I'm actually going to get out a green line laser level to straighten these walls. We can see we've set it up in the bottom plate, so it's just hitting the bottom plate there, and it works right with the bottom. But I just looked up, and we can see on that top plate that it's missing it by about 10 mil. I've got it set up, and I think this is what we're going with. So we need to pack the top plate by about 10 mil on this side. We can see the green laser line is right there. So it is hitting, yeah, it is hitting right in the middle. But if we look through this side, we can see that laser line is actually hitting the top plate, and we're going to be cutting that very slightly from this point going through. And to fix this, I can actually twist the laser and pull it out by 10 mil on this side, in 10 mil on that side. That will make the top work really well. But the problem is we've got the bottom really good the way it is. So if I was to twist that and change the top, it means we're just gonna have the same problem with the bottom. So I'm just using masonite packers to pack this top plate to be straight. I'm just gonna hit these in with some soft sheets as well. I forgot how hard it is to hit these little nails into the hardwood timber. Oh, I'm not doing too well. It's hitting the laser everywhere. I'm just making sure of the level that we're looking good. Yeah, that's looking really good. Awesome. All right, now I'm just going to jump down and do the same thing with the bottom. It was actually the middle that was the furthest part out, but I've moved the laser so that this part here is running straight with the middle, and then we just need to pack out this side here to make it work. Right, so I'm going to put a few of these nails through this cavity side of pocket, but the issue is these nails are slightly too long and they're going to be sticking through the pocket, and when I shut the door, the nail is actually going to rub against and scratch the door. So what I'm going to do is actually use the same nail, and we're going to hit them in, and yeah, that's just sticking out through the other side. I'm just going to grab the multi-tool and we're just going to cut off the tip of that nail there so it can't scratch the door. There we go. Alright, sweet. Now we've got both plates straight, and now I can go through and straighten this wall the typical way by just going through every single stud, running my straight edge from top to bottom, and then going through and either packing out or planing the stud. And we can see in this first one, yeah, we've got a bit of a bow there. So this might be a bit of a lengthy process. Now there's one thing I want to quickly address before we move on, and that is the fact that I've packed the top and the bottom of that one side of the wall there. What I could have done instead is move that laser ever so slightly so it matched up with the bottom there, meaning that I only need to pack the bottom, and that would have also pulled the laser out on this side, meaning we wouldn't have cut as much off the top plate. Now there's actually two reasons that I did it this way. First reason is that even though there was a bit of work to do at the top and I had to cut that top plate, I would have had to cut it regardless, no matter what way I did it. And having the laser lined up with one side of the bottom means there's just a little bit less work having to pack the side where the laser's good. Now the main reason I did it this way though, is when I went through and flicked out the lines for this butler's pantry, I squared off this wall here. The very start of this wall is straight, and that was a point I set off to make everything else square with that corner. So when I came through here and packed out this slider to match up with that straight bit there, I've actually made this wall straight and square with the rest of the walls in the butler's pantry. And that's going to become really important when I do get my cabinetry and put it in this corner. I've got a cabinet right here which is going to go back against this wall and butt into this plaster. And if these two walls are out of square when I put that cabinet in, you're going to have a gap between the wall and the cabinet which you'll have to go through and fill up later. Anyway, with that being said, I'm going to grab the straight edge and let's get this wall over and done with. So one issue we're going to have to deal with is the old hardwood timber being 100 mil and our new studs being 90 mil. If we look at the stud I put in here at the top with that straight edge, at the top there, if we can see that, we've got about 15 mil that I have to pack that stud out by. Now the reason that one's so bad, even after going through and cutting that top plate, is that I've actually gone through and put that stud in perfectly plumb. So that old wall plate is running out of plumb a little bit, but from this point here, it starts to kick out massively. And yeah, you can just see how bad that is over there. That means on the other side too, we put the stud in flush the bottom plate at the bottom there. But if we make our way up to the top, we can see that stud is missing the top plate by close to 20 mil. And if we double check this with the level as well, we can see that we are sitting good. And that's just how much that old wall was out by. So for the stud here, we can't go through the masonite packers. I can't put 3 or 4 packers on because that's gonna be way too weak for when the plaster goes on. Instead, what I'm gonna have to do is just cut a stud at the same height, and I'm gonna be ripping that stud to work with the inside of the wall. Yeah, it's exactly 15 mil. That's heaps. There we go. Perfect fit. I'm sure I'm going to get a comment on this too. I'm still using the Hikoki gun. I love that gun. It's just easier to keep that in my car, and I've got this one at home. So when I'm working at home, I'm just going to leave this laying around so I can use it. Don't get me wrong, Pezzo guns are awesome. I'm just loving the Hikoki gun, and that's still my favorite gun to use at the moment. All right, so my process for straightening is I'll get the thread edge and we'll go over every single stud. For this wall, they're actually bowing the same way. The studs are bowing that way. If they're bowing out towards me, that's when I get the planer and I just plane back the stud gradually to make sure it's straight. And we're pretty much doing the opposite now. I've got my bit of masonite. I'm gonna sight behind the thread edge and see which parts are hitting the thread edge and which parts have a bit of a gap. And we've got a full packer from the top, and actually it almost looks like I can sit that packer in there. I'm gonna put the thread edge back on it, and we're gonna see if it's rocking on that packer. And it looks like it works quite straight, and all I gotta do is fade this out at the bottom. So this is the process I'm doing. I'm just seeing what I need to do with the packers and always getting my planer, and we'll do a couple pass-bys to fade them out. These masonite packers are 3 mil thick. I've got my planer set on 1 mil, so those 2 pass-bys are firstly taking off 1 mil the whole way through, and that second one is taking off another mil there. So we're just gradually going down by the mil. So I'm gonna slide this back on here. I think I might go with that stud. It's a little bit straighter. Let's throw this on. And that works the whole way through. So once I'm happy with the packer that I'm using, I said it before, we just got our soft sheet nails, and I'm just gonna, damn, they keep bending over last second. But I'm gonna get a fair few of these, because if I did a nail here and then one at the top, you can see this packer's a bit loose, and what could happen is that could bubble up, and that could actually foul the plaster and make the plaster stick out a little bit. So I wanna get heaps of nails into these packers, and that's just gonna mean our wall is gonna remain completely straight when it comes to plastering. All right, so I'm gonna take a quick break from straightening. Not all the walls are done yet, but I'm gonna jump over and put in the pocket for this cavity sliding door. The only reason I'm doing it in this process, instead of going through and straightening everything first, is because I'm doing this renovation when I've got time on the weekends and after work. Meaning most of the time when I'm in here working, it's gonna be dark and I can't really film. So I'll do the straightening when it's dark and we can't get video. But for now, this wall here is straight on both sides. I've gone over it, and it's time to put this cavity slider pocket in. To make it easy for myself, we're just gonna lay it down pretty much in place where it needs to go. All right, so we've got all our hardware there. We'll put that to the side for now, and we'll open up everything else which is tied up here. There's 2 different types of cavity sliding doors you can get. You can get the flush pull and the flush jam. When I framed this opening, the goal was to get a flush jam one. And that means that door goes all the way into the cavity, and that door is actually flush with the edge of the cavity. So to open it, you need a little latch going into the door so you can put a finger in and open it out. What that was gonna do was give us a bit more opening, a bit more space to walk into the butler's pantry. So we had a last minute change, and we went with the flush pull slider. And this means the door doesn't go all the way into the pocket, so it's actually a bit smaller than what the other one would have been. Because of that, we've got a bit of room here, and I need to pack this out by a couple of studs before we put the cavity slider in. All right, so what we're gonna do with the slider is spin this around, and this is the top of the slider here. So the MDF lines up on that side, and then you can see we will hold it in place, and we've got all these holes here, which we're gonna screw into. So with that MDF flush, I'm also gonna get my fixer, and we're just gonna shoot a nail or two in there holding that together. I'm gonna get 2, and same with the other side too. I might just lift it up, get that nice and flush. There's 1, 2. All right, now we're gonna grab our closing jamb. I should have done this for the other side too, but I love just getting a dab of PVA glue to help hold it together. So I'm just gonna go where the MDF is touching, top and bottom, and we'll slide that in. It's gonna sit like that, and we're carefully just gonna shoot a couple nails to hold this. All right, to put the cavity slider in, I'm gonna check the stud where the cavity is going against, and honestly, it could use a small packer at the top. You can either use plastic packers for this. I've always used masonite because when you're doing this, you're gonna have plenty of this stuff around. And what I'll do is get my planer and I'll fade this down. So I've got a few different packers at 2mm, 3mm, and 1mm. So we'll go from here. There we go. So I'll break that off. These are my 1mm packers. And I'm just gonna hold them by the stud, and I'm just gonna snap them off and make them roughly 80mm. The same thing where I've done just one pass by. This pack is now 2mm, so I break a bunch of these off. And then obviously that full packer at the bottom is gonna be 3mm in case I need that. So we've got the stud plumb. Next thing we're gonna do is check the floor, and it's pretty good. There's actually about 1 mil of play. I'm checking it, and this side here is the high point, and it goes out very slightly over here. It's crucial that we get the pocket to be put in level and also plumb, because if it's out of level and there's a bit of a slant on that top rail, that door is just gonna keep sliding that way. So you need to make sure it's level. This side's plumb, that's a high point, so what I'm gonna do is put the pocket in, shoot it to this stud, and then we can just go through and pack up the pocket once it's in to get that top rail level. So I'm just gonna carry the pocket over, and we're just gonna line the timbers up to be nice and straight and flush with the timber frame. So now I'm just gonna use my framer and shoot some nails in. Obviously the nails we're shooting, we wanna shoot right next to those packers we put in. As I said before, it's basically out by 1mm. This thing is 1mm right now. I'm gonna put it under the jamb side, which in theory might be putting this out of level by a bit too much, but we'll just double check it. And that's actually sitting in really good there. Oh, I'm losing stuff everywhere. The next thing we're gonna do though is grab out these little nails that come with the slider, and we're gonna nail the bottom of it down. I'm actually gonna make it easier for myself, and I think this might be a bit more secure anyway. I'm gonna change those nails to some screws. And this MDF at the front here, this is gonna be flush with the plaster. So what I'm gonna do is go with my chalk line, which I can see down there. And if I just measure back 10mm, 10mm gets us right there. That's 10mm there. We should have 10mm on the other side, which is perfect. That's exactly where it needs to be. And I'm gonna screw this off. And same thing, I've got another screw, and we're just gonna do it at the back here, which is gonna help hold everything together. All right, for the closing jamb side, I'm gonna grab the rest of those masonite packers that we cut before, and I'm just gonna work my way down from top to bottom. I'm just gonna be using my ruler, which is the same thickness as a plasterboard at 10mm, and we're just gonna make sure this jamb comes past the stud by that 10mm. So once we put our plaster on, everything's gonna be flush and easy to put our architrave over. So I'm using the fixie gun just to tack it on for now. We'll get all our packers in, we'll get this straight, and then at the very end I'll go through with some screws and screw her off. Alright, Alright, so the next thing I was about to do was go through and build a bulkhead up here. With the final layout of the kitchen, we're going to have a few cabinets either side here, a stove in the middle, and we're going to have overhead cupboards running across the top. The overhead cabinets, though, aren't going to go all the way up to plaster line. I'm guessing they're going to start roughly from this height here, and I'm not sure how big they'll be. They actually might be close to going to ceiling height, but I think we're going to have a few hundred mil between the cabinet and the ceiling. And I was going to go through, frame that up, make sure it's all good. We're going to plaster it up, get everything done, so it's easy enough just to put the cabinets in, and then we don't have to think about it anymore. I was going to do that, but now I'm here thinking about it, and I'm realizing there's way too many things that could go wrong if we do it first. The main thing that could go wrong is if I get my bulkhead perfectly straight, and for some reason, if that cabinet doesn't line up perfectly with that plaster, it's going to be an eyesore. So what I'm going to do instead is we'll just keep going through, straightening these walls, and I'll actually go through, plaster everything, put my cabinets in first, and then at the end, I'll come through and we'll do not really a bulkhead, but we'll just put something up there so we can block off that gap between the cabinets and the plaster. So that was going to be the main framing thing we're doing today. Instead, I'm just going to jump over, and I need to replace the stud anyway, so I may as well go through and frame up this opening. So I'm definitely going to need to get a sparky to come back here and rerun these cables for me. I want both of these light switches to be pulled over to this stud, which we've moved over about 200 mil. So we've got the exact same measurement on that side and this side, and that doorway is going to be centered in the middle of this whole walkway. It actually almost works out to be perfect too, with this stud lining up with the wall for our butler's pantry. So everything looks a little bit better that way. There's still a bit of work we have to do with this wall though, but since there's so many cables there, I think I'm just going to leave that for now and turn our attention onto one of the many other problems we have. If I jump over here into the hallway, we can see I've still got a temp brace up here, which is holding this wall here from moving sideways. We got rid of an old cross brace that was here, and I have yet to put it on this new wall that we built. So I might actually jump in here now. I've got some hoop irons, so we'll throw a cross brace on this wall, and that means we can go through and get rid of this temp brace, which is doing my head in because it's in a bit of an awkward spot when I keep trying to walk through this doorway. I've still got a fair bit of work that has to be done before we start plastering. I'm actually going to change my attention just to getting this wall through the hallway here completed. What I'm going to do is go through, get everything ready for plaster, and then I'm going to try my first of a time plastering with this wall here. It might be a bit ambitious doing the first of a time with these 45-degree angles. I don't know what's in stock with that. I might just have to do a neat cut with a plaster. We'll figure that out in the next episode anyway. But one thing I do want to do is go through and pack these corners here. I need to pack these junctions, and the most important thing I want is a point where that corner is going to be. So this is the angle that I need to cut a few blocks at. I obviously need to trim it down so it fits in there. But one way I can confirm and double check that I've done these angles completely right is by grabbing this block, and if I sit it on the inside in here and I line that up with that corner, you can see that is perfect. So that's how I know that this angle is definitely right to sit in there on this side. And now we just got to cut it down so it fits. And I can just measure back both ways to that point, which is, I'm going to say we've got about 38 that way and about 38 this way. And now if I square these off and cut these two lines, this is going to be that perfect block that I need to fit in there. And to be honest, I can see a mistake straight away, which I probably should have noticed. But these 2 points here should meet and be absolutely nothing at that point. So if I sit that in there, it is sticking a little bit proud. And if I just made these points go back down to nothing, that will slot all the way through into there and we shouldn't have an issue. All right, I thought this was going to happen, but I just thought of an easier way to do this, and it wouldn't have involved all the playing around I was just doing. I still think I'm going to find an easier way than playing around and cutting these awkward little blocks. But what I just realized then, instead of playing around with all these angles and doing what I've just done then, all I need to do is get my speed square and I'll line the 45-degree line up with this point of the timber. I'll square that all the way through there. We've got that side there, which is 90 mil. and I'll measure this side here, so we've also got 90mm coming down this way. And then all I need to do is get my speed square and go 45 from that point. Barely any math at all involved in that, and that's probably going to be even more accurate than this block that I just came up with. Alright, so I've cut a fair few. We're going to do 5 of these blocks per junction, and I'm actually going to screw them in 2 because I reckon if I try to shoot those, I'm going to split straight away. What I'm going to do is just get my first block, and I'm going to screw it on like this. I'm going to go flush. Actually, we'll go nog line. I'm going to go flush with the stud on that side, and I'm not caring about the other side for now. So let's just get a screw in here. So that's good with the stud I screwed it into. But if we look down the wall this way, we've got about a 5mm gap. And if we look through these studs here, we can see they're almost touching at the bottom. And I don't know if this is the best angle on the camera to see it, but we've got a bit of a larger gap at the top here. So that's telling us that this stud is bowed. And what I need to do is actually push the bow out of that stud. And if I push it like that, that is completely flush with our block. I'm going to screw it on there, and these blocks are going to help us get this wall locked in place and also straight. After doing this corner, I've been thinking about it for a little bit, and I'm not too sure if it is going to work the way it is right now. So what I'll be doing is putting an external plaster corner on there. I'm not sure what they're exactly called. And it'll be going from that top to the bottom. I'll be nailing it off where these little blocks are. I'm not too sure though if it does need a solid backing the entire way through. I'm not going to do it yet, but if anyone watching this video has any experience in plastering, let me know if I should go through and do little blocks in between all of these corners here so that we do have a solid connection for that entire corner. I'm going to spend a bit of time looking into this myself and working out what to do, but if anyone has dealt with anything like this before, I'd love some feedback before I start plastering and just to know what you guys have done. The next thing I'm going to jump up and do is to actually go through and put some nogs in the ceiling so that we can install some plaster to fill up this little gap we have here. We can see in the most part we do have a backing block in there, we've got some joists running through there, so we've got a few places to connect the plaster to. I need to get a multi-tool out and get rid of this plate here though. There's a bit of a mess I do have to deal with, but the most important thing though would be just going through in these corners here and putting some nogs up there for our plaster to get screwed into. For now I'm just going to jump up and get this little bit ready here. I don't think I'm going to film it. It's going to be a bit awkward to film because I'm going to be climbing through the roof, cutting little blocks, but I'm going to get that done. And the last thing I want to get done, just so we can plaster this side of the wall, is to jump into this little linen closet, or what is going to be a linen closet. And I know we got a small stud there, but I want to put a few more studs on either side just so we've got a corner to screw our plaster into. So the goal for now is that I'll probably stop the plaster somewhere on this header here because I can't really go through and finish this corner off until we get rid of the temp door. So what the plan will be is to go through, plaster the inside of this linen closet, and we'll just keep making our way back. We'll plaster that little doorway there, maybe even put that door in, but then obviously go through and plaster the back of this wall here. That way we can use this door as a bit of a door to shut off the construction from the work site. We can finish this wall all the way through here, and the house is a bit more livable. And on top of that, I can have a bit of fun putting this plaster on. It's going to be my first time plastering, so we're going to see how it goes. This can be the little test run, and then from there, we've got the massive project of doing the entire kitchen. And I still need to go through and straighten these walls here before plaster. I'm probably going to do that off camera though. I'm honestly about to head out in about half an hour, heading up to the footy tonight, and this video is going live tomorrow on the Sunday. So it's just going to be a push to get the video out for now, but we're just going to be doing the exact same stuff that we went through when I was straightening the inside of the butler's pantry there. It feels good to be back on the kitchen reno, making some progress, and the next video should be out in 1 week's time when I attempt to do some plastering on this wall here.